The Trump regime has made an aggressive effort to scrub public records of data that conflict with the executive branch's political priorities, ideological mandates, and policy agendas. By framing long-standing government measurements on public health, climate science, labor, and social demographics as politicized, redundant, or contrary to executive orders, such as directives targeting gender ideology and diversity initiatives, the Trump regime is reshaping official government narratives, and with it, the record on American history. Beyond controlling public messaging, systematically dismantling these empirical tracking tools limits visibility into systemic issues, preventing researchers, policymakers, and the public from using baseline facts to challenge administration claims or advocate for evidence-based policies. Over the past year and a half, an aggressive campaign has unfolded across executive agencies to remove, modify, or censor federal datasets. According to tracking conducted by independent data policy experts, researchers, and developers at dataindex.us, at least 28 datasets have been deleted outright, while over 338 data collections have been significantly altered or restricted. The affected information spans almost every area of public interest: real-time global air quality readings collected by U.S. embassies, federal databases tracking law enforcement misconduct, and national surveys measuring emotional, physical, and sexual violence against youth. This wholesale removal of information is not a matter of routine website maintenance or digital house cleaning. It represents a deliberate strategy to eliminate empirical data that conflicts with political priorities, ideological stances, and unfounded theories. As former U.S. Chief Data Scientist Denise Ross observed, removing these resources leaves communities and leaders without the essential tools needed to make life-saving decisions. Public health data has borne the brunt of these removals, comprising roughly 40% of all terminated or altered datasets. When state officials, doctors, and researchers track disease outbreaks or substance abuse trends, they rely on long-term surveillance systems to spot patterns early. The removal or freeze of critical tools, such as the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration Drug Abuse Warning Network, deprives public health workers of near real-time emergency room data used to identify emerging drug overdoses. Public health experts emphasize that interrupting these long-standing data collections breaks the continuity required to evaluate health interventions over time. Impacted public health programs include the National HIV Surveillance System, the Drug Abuse Warning Network, the National Violent Death Reporting System, the National Intimate Partner and Sexual Violence Survey, and the CDC Diabetes Prevention Recognition Program. Simultaneously, federal surveys conducted by the CDC have systematically removed demographic indicators regarding gender identity and sexual orientation across major tracking programs, including the National HIV Surveillance System and the National Violent Death Reporting System. By eliminating demographic questions from national surveys, the government creates data vacuums around vulnerable populations. Without precise data on specific demographics, healthcare systems cannot allocate targeted resources for disease prevention, mental health support, or community intervention. And as misinformed claims regarding vaccines, such as routine MMR, measles, mumps, and rubella immunizations continue to circulate, removing or limiting baseline epidemiological data weakens the public's ability to counter health misinformation with clear, verified facts. The suppression of data extends beyond public health into the classrooms and workplaces of America. Among the terminated datasets is the National Center for Education Statistics Survey, which tracked the working conditions, pay, and retention rates of teachers and principals in public and private schools nationwide. Removing this research leaves policymakers without objective national metrics on teacher shortages, educational burnout, and resource disparities across school districts. In the agricultural sector, the removal of the Department of Agriculture's twice-annual survey on farm labor and wages eliminates transparent metrics that previously informed minimum pay standards for agricultural workers. When federal data collection stops, visibility into labour standards, pay equity and working conditions disappear along with it. Environmental and climate data have similarly faced systemic removal. Centralised repositories such as climate.gov, a key platform maintained by NASA to translate complex atmospheric data into accessible insights for educators, researchers and the public, have been taken down or dismantled. Data models tracking regional climate vulnerabilities and economic screening tools designed to evaluate pollution impacts have also been targeted. In response, civil society organizations, academic groups, and independent researchers have stepped in to rescue, mirror, and rebuild these essential databases. Grassroots efforts have restored public climate dashboards, maintained screening tools, and archived critical environmental data to ensure that communities retain access to information about local environmental risks. The deletion of digital public data coincides with a broader legal challenge over the preservation of government records themselves. Under the Presidential Records Act, a law enacted nearly half a century ago to ensure that presidential administrative records belong to the public and are preserved by the National Archives, presidents are required to retain official communications and documentation. Recently, watchdog organizations, media foundations, and historic associations, including the American Historical Association, American Oversight and Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, filed legal briefs in federal court to enforce record preservation requirements. The lawsuits followed internal executive guidance claiming that record preservation requirements were unconstitutional and instructing staff that record-keeping was voluntary. A federal district court rejected the argument that record preservation laws could be simply set aside, ordering executive offices to preserve records in full compliance with the law. District Judge John D. Bates opened his order by quoting George Orwell, "Who controls the past controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past." Historians and legal experts emphasize that allowing any administration to unilaterally decide what records are saved, hidden, or destroyed sets a dangerous precedent that undermines transparency and democratic accountability. Data collected by federal agencies is paid for by taxpayers and belongs to the American public. It serves as the baseline for medical breakthroughs, public safety policies, labor protections, and climate resilience. When government datasets are deleted, altered, or hidden from view, the public loses the ability to measure progress, identify systemic problems, and hold leadership accountable. Restoring and protecting public access to scientific research, public health metrics, and historical records remains essential to maintaining a transparent, informed society. As the United States reached its semi-quincentennial on July 4, 2026, marking 250 years since the Declaration of Independence declared that all men are created equal, the nation stands at a critical juncture of collective reflection and reckoning. The Trump regime's broad effort to strip mentions of Black, Indigenous, Labour, women's and LGBTQ+ histories, alongside vital scientific records on climate change, extends far beyond simple administrative edits across parks, museums, classrooms and courtrooms. By erasing the full complex arc of American progress and its contradictions, this coordinated campaign exposes a deeper political motive, a deliberate attempt to dictate whose history is worth remembering and ultimately who truly belongs in America. I'm Anthony Davis. You can find me on the 5 Minute News YouTube channel and podcast, on Wednesdays co-hosting Uncovered, on Global AF, on Legal AF, and on Sundays on The Weekend Show with MeidasTouch.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.